no, the woke media is telling us that the new Viking movie, The Northman, is really bad because white supremacists love it. I kid you not. The movie is bad because supposedly bad people like it. Well, I'm here to tell you that we need more movies just like this one, and I'm going to show you precisely why. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you, your Patriot Professor. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Strap yourselves in, and let's dive right in. The Northman is a visually spectacular film directed by Robert Eggers, known for his two previous movies, The Witch and The Lighthouse. It was co-written with the Icelandic author Sjon, and together they awaken an extraordinarily mystical world that unfolds like a grand epic poem. The movie is based on one of the medieval Nordic stories that actually inspired Shakespeare's writing of his renowned tragedy, Hamlet. It's a story centered on a Viking prince named Amleth. That's Hamlet, but with the H at the end, Amleth. When the story begins in 895 AD, we first meet Amleth as a young boy who's being mentored by his father, King Orvandil, for his royal future. But soon after a rite of passage ceremony for Amleth, King Orvandil is ambushed and murdered by his own brother, Fjolnir, right in front of young Amleth. When Fjolnir sends his henchmen after Amleth, the young boy runs away and escapes, but in the process, he hears his mother screaming as she's carried away by his murderous uncle who usurps the throne. And so young Amleth swears to one day avenge his father and save his mother. In the very next scene, it's many years later, and Amleth has become an adult and a very ripped one at that. And he's now a fierce Viking warrior who's joined up with the infamous Berserkers who raise Amleth shortly after he escaped from his uncle's henchmen. Together they conquer a fortress in the land of Rus in pre-Christian Russia and enslave the vanquished men, women, and older children. Amleth finds out that the slaves are being shipped to the kingdom of his murderous uncle Fjolnir. So being true to his vow, Amleth disguises himself as one of the slaves and joins the captives bound for Fjolnir's fortress. Along the way, he meets a Russian sorceress by the name of Olga. They instantly fall in love. He tells her of his plans of revenge, and they conspire together to kill Fjolnir and rescue his mother. However, there's a twist. It turns out that Fjolnir lost his kingdom to other invaders years ago and has since been exiled in northern Iceland, where he presides over a small village and just a handful of soldiers. Having entered into the Icelandic settlement as a slave, Amleth eventually wins Fjolnir's trust, and then together, Olga and Amleth, through a combination of psychological warfare and unexplained gruesome murders, convince the village that they're being haunted by an evil spirit. And again, through it all, there's yet another twist. Amleth learns that what Fjolnir did to his father all those years ago was actually far more complicated than he ever imagined. And like the Shakespearean Hamlet, he too is given a to be or not to be choice. Should he embrace a newfound life of love, or should he continue on his path towards murderous revenge? Is Amleth bound by fate, or is he free to choose his own destiny? Now, these are some of the questions that makes this movie so fascinating and so impressive all the way through. For me, what makes The Northman so good is that it goes way beyond the typical archaic movie epics like Troy or Gladiator, where the characters are depicted as basically modern people who find themselves in an ancient world. The Greeks and Romans of antiquity are depicted as being just like you and me. The only difference is that, well, they wear togas and drive chariots. And as a bit of a Greco-Roman historian myself, I have a real pet peeve with that because that's actually not the case. The ancient world was a very different one from our modern, secularized, and frankly disenchanted world. The pre-modern imagination envisioned the world as filled with divine meaning and purpose, and the Viking imagination in particular envisioned the world as an arena of cosmic warfare, filled with clashing gods and spirits and sorcery and powerful magic and transformative rituals. And it's here in reawakening that world right before our very eyes that there's an eerie authenticity to the Northman. It doesn't just treat us to a movie about modern people in ancient costumes. It actually transports us back in time and draws us into the mythical world of divine cosmos, full of gods and witches and Valkyries, all as part of everyday life for the characters as much as are animals and trees. In fact, one of the more authentic elements of the movie is the emphasis that the director Eggers places on the Viking conception of animals. In Norse culture, people held a belief known as totemism, which is the notion that each person possesses a totem or a spirit animal. Moreover, the Norse peoples believed that each animal was representative of certain characteristics. So, for example, foxes typically symbolize intelligence and protection and good fortune. So in the Northman, a group of foxes come to Amleth's aid to help him get revenge on his uncle Fjolnir. Because it was believed that each person had a particular connection with the spirit of an animal, in times of need, people would call upon their spirit animal in the hope that they would gain the characteristics needed to successfully rise up and confront challenging situations. And that's exactly what we have in this movie. And we see it very early on in a mystical rite of passage scene right at the beginning of the film. We find that the young Amleth becomes possessed with the spirit animal of a wolf. And so when it's time for him to go to battle as he grows up, Amleth dons a hat and fur covering made from a wolf's head and skin and fights with such ferocity that at one point he actually rips apart a man's throat with his teeth and howls as he spits out the blood. And oh yeah, about that, I should mention, this is an incredibly brutal and bloody film, so fair warning. Moreover, all throughout the film, we get visions of the mythical Valhalla and Ragnarok and the Valkyries intersecting directly with the lives of the characters, awakening us to a pre-modern, paranormal Viking world that stands in stark contrast to the sterile, secularized world of our modern industrial era. It's this kind of attention to the ancient worldview that makes the film so powerful. Eggers successfully intersects the lives of men and animals and gods in a dramatic interplay that draws us into a distinctive Viking vision of the world. But it's also, of course, in the Shakespearean sense, a tragedy. It's a very dark film that depicts a world governed by a seemingly unending Cain and Abel ethos, brother killing brother, and the unending blood vengeance required in that retributive world. We see a comparable world in the ancient Greek tragedy of Orestes, the son of King Agamemnon, who upon his return from fighting in the years of Troy was murdered by his wife and her boy toy, who she began hanging out with all those years King Agamemnon was fighting away. Orestes takes vengeance against his mother and her lover for their murder, but then he must himself face the consequences of the cycle of violence that such a retributive economy consists of. And so it goes without saying, with Shakespeare and Greek tragedy in the backdrop, The Northman is a tale that is universal in nature, a tale of blood vengeance that cries out for some kind of ultimate resolution where the cycle of retribution could finally and decisively end. And that is precisely what the ancient Christian story is all about. A Christian story that did eventually make its way successfully into the Viking world. So, needless to say, going back to those complaints that this film is bad because supposedly bad people liked it, well, you may have guessed there isn't a woke moment in this entire film. I mean, literally, there isn't a single woke second in the entire movie. It's as traditionalist and as epic as it gets when it comes to film genre, and that is precisely why so many in our woke media despise it. Over to you. Let us know what you thought of the movie in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and definitely check out my latest video I just uploaded. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to click on that link, and I will see you over there. God bless.